I hear a lot of women saying, I am eating a clean diet. I feel like I'm eating healthier than I ever have been. Why am I not losing weight? But just because you're eating a quote unquote clean diet and you're eating healthier doesn't mean that your body is getting what it needs to be able to release fat in perimenopause. In fact, sometimes these types of changes can completely backfire. I hear this concern all the time working with women in their late 30s and beyond, and there are clear science-backed reasons of why this is. How do I know this? I am Christy, and not only am I going through this wild ride of perimenopause myself, I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I help women navigate perimenopause so they can not only feel better and feel a little bit more like themselves again, but also so they do not feel like they have to completely white knuckle their way through it and grin and bear it. So let's walk through the 8 most common mistakes that I see and what you can do instead. First of all, and I see this over and over and over again, for sure the most common mistake that I see is that women are not eating enough, especially when we clean up our diet. Women are often eating less overall. Maybe they're also cutting carbs, or they're skipping snacks, or they're just simply living on more vegetables than they ever have. Veggies are not bad, but we also need to be sure that we are filling in the nutrients and the energy in other areas. When you are under eating, the body interprets that as a stress. And that often means that we're also not fueling our muscles properly, which also can slow metabolism in addition to added stress. So this can cause a whole lot of metabolic damage or dysfunction, or slow down metabolic function, which can make the body not only not release fat, but also potentially store more of it, which if you are watching this video, I'm pretty sure that is what you are trying not to do. So eating enough to fuel your body is critical, especially in this time frame. Most of us burn 1,200 calories just sitting here doing nothing at all, not including all the activity that we are filling our lives with. So when we are not eating to meet the energetic needs of our body, that is causing this down regulation. So how much food do you need? That is a very valid question. I talk about that a lot more in another video that I will link in the description below about how 1,200 calories is not enough. The next one, which is similar, is inconsistent calorie intake. So maybe you are making more heartier meals at home. You have more rich sauces and things, which can be beautiful and lovely. And in those days, you are eating in a caloric surplus. But then the pendulum on some other days can swing where you are under eating. Maybe you are eating more veggie filled meals on those days, which is, again, veggies are not bad, but we need to also make sure that we are getting enough overall energy intake to be able to support our body's function. This inconsistency can keep your metabolism out of balance. This can cause your body to store more on the days where there is more of a surplus of calories, because there is inconsistent calories coming in overall, and there are some days where we are much lower than where we should be. So keeping your caloric intake fairly consistent day to day is pretty important in the perimenopause era. Now, of course, that is a nuanced conversation, because if you are an extreme athlete, you have a lot of energetic needs on certain days, there can be an argument where you need more on those days. But for the average woman, where we're just going day to day, we work out 4 to 5 days a week, we are walking, we don't need to have such huge swings in our caloric intake. The next one is digestive struggles. So adding a ton of plants and protein all at once is a wonderful recipe for bloating and gas and indigestion, especially if we're eating all raw veggies, or we increased our fiber too much too quickly, or we're eating certain cuts of meat, sometimes fattier cuts of meat, not well cooked cuts of meat. Sometimes that can just be more difficult for our body to be able to digest. And when that happens, when we are getting some of those signs of bloating and indigestion, that can also be a sign that we are not breaking our food down properly to be able to absorb those nutrients and put them to work across the body. Increase your fiber very slowly. Like, I recommend not more than 5 grams over a week or 2. Do it very slowly to allow the body time to adjust. Fiber is also a bit of Goldilocks for the body. Some people need a lot of fiber and can tolerate a lot of fiber, and some people, no matter how much they try, can't tolerate more than maybe 20 to 25 grams. And that's okay. Every single person is so unique and different. Another tip, anytime we are increasing our veggies, or there seems to be some sensitivities to too many veggies, I always recommend cooking your vegetables. Certainly, some nutrients are lost in the cooking process, but I'd rather have you digesting the vegetables properly rather than fretting about losing some nutrients that maybe you wouldn't even absorb anyway because you're not able to digest them. So cooking your vegetables, whether that be steaming them, lightly sauteing them, or roasting or braising them, are all really great options to be able to make those vegetables easier for our body to digest. And another tip that seems very basic, but it's to chew your food really well. That is one of the very first steps of digestion. And so let's use these tools that we have to be able to break the food down to make it easier and create less burden lower down in the digestive tract and make it easier for our body to be able to absorb those nutrients. Chewing the food really well also helps stimulate more digestive juices lower down in the digestive tract. So not only are you helping to break it down more here, you're also helping it down here. Hey, if this has been at all helpful, I'd be so appreciative if you would like this video, subscribe, or share it with a friend. It helps more women find this type of support during this very confusing life stage. Thank you. The next one is more of the timing issue, which is going too long between meals and creating that stress because there is an inconsistent intake even within the day. Skipping meals or fasting too long is a stress. That means that it increases cortisol. Cortisol is not a bad thing, but it also is used to be able to provide energy to the body. So it helps release more glucose from stored places in your body into the bloodstream. So this is where you can have high blood sugar, but you didn't eat anything at all. And having this higher blood sugar can disrupt insulin, which ultimately can disrupt fat burning. So yeah, fasting can work for some people, but it is definitely not the strategy that I would recommend for most perimenopausal women because we are less stress resilient. I go into fasting pretty in depth in a video that I will link below if you want to dive in a bit more there to learn more about my POV on it. So general recommendation would be to eat within 60 minutes of waking and having a meal every 3 to 5 hours during your waking hours. If you enjoy fasting, which I do believe that an overnight fast is great for everyone, so I'm not against that at all, but keep it gentle. So about 12 to 13 hours is enough for most women and enough to get some really nice benefits as well without increasing the stress too much on the body. The next is not eating enough lean protein. So again, veggie heavy meals sometimes don't have enough of the protein that our bodies needs, or we end up relying more on fattier cuts of meat as we are eating a bit more quote unquote clean and making more meals at home. And neither of those things are bad, but we're needing to make sure that then we are adjusting the rest of the day to ensure that we are getting enough protein in our diet overall. Without enough lean protein, you might not have as stable of a blood sugar because protein is really fantastic at slowing down the glucose absorption into your bloodstream, but also the benefit we all know is that it supports muscle. So if you're not eating enough, and also when we are in an era where we are starting to lose a lot more muscle, that means we need more nutrients to be able to maintain it, and losing all of that muscle means we also are losing that metabolic firepower, keeping our metabolism strong. This is very general, but aiming for at least 30 grams of lean protein per meal is a great goal for most women. So think poultry, fish, eggs, bison, lean cuts of beef. Those are all really great options. Even protein powder can be helpful. I'm not saying have every single meal be protein powder, but having one meal where you are using protein powder to be able to supplement some of your protein can be helpful to fill some of those gaps. And another tip that can be helpful is to think about building all your meals around protein first. So instead of saying, oh, great, I have these extra veggies left, think in your mind, what is going to be my protein? That also can help with meal planning and grocery list planning. What are going to be my proteins for the week? That can help set you up for success when it comes to getting that solid protein intake throughout your entire week. The next one is poor meal balance in general. Fruit and carbs are so great. Carbs are not the devil. I talk about this a lot. But eating them on their own can spike blood sugar for some people. That can lead to crashes and cravings and stalled weight loss, again, because it impacts your body's ability to be able to utilize glucose well. Also, it can increase inflammation and stress across the body, which we will get into of why that is a problem. So balancing your meals can be helpful in making sure that we are slowing the release of glucose into our bloodstream. Instead of a huge spike, which then comes a huge crash, we want it to be more like a little mound that is much more gentle and less stressful, and also helps keep us full for longer. So always pairing carbs with a protein and trying to eat protein first within a meal is helpful to be able to slow the glucose absorption into your bloodstream. So pairing an apple with a piece of cheese or nut butter, or instead of just eating plain berries, pairing that with a little bit of Greek yogurt are great options of being able to create those pairings. This next one is one that most women don't think is an issue for them, but it is incredibly common, and if only I had a nickel for every single time this was actually a big part of somebody's problem. And that is stress and inflammation. Perimenopause makes your body much more sensitive to stress. And this is emotional stress, of course. That's what everyone will think, like, I'm way less stressed than I used to be. I don't understand. But it's also other stresses that can be a huge impact on the body, like poor sleep, overexercising, low-grade inflammation that's challenging the immune system. These are all huge stresses on the body that can slow your metabolism and keep your body stuck in that storage mode rather than being able to release fat. So prioritizing sleep is critical. Make that a non-negotiable in your routine. Your bedtime routine is sacred. It helps get you to bed. It helps wind down your body. And also do inventory on the things that are not working for you when it comes to sleep. If you are eating too close to bedtime, digestion is pumping, and that can also keep you a little bit more stimulated and awake and mess with the quality of sleep overall. Be very cautious about your intake during your bedtime routine. What are things that help calm your nervous system? So, of course, we all know that scrolling in bed isn't that great. Well, not only is it not that great because it's stimulating for the mind, but it also is stimulating for the eyes and the light that you are receiving in, and that can mess with your circadian rhythm and your sleep quality. And then, of course, alcohol, we know that is not the most supportive, but if you are to indulge in it, making sure that you have fully metabolized it before you are going to sleep, because that is a recipe for disaster when it comes to sleep quality. Anyone with an Oura ring knows that having alcohol is a surefire way to get a low sleep score. And then also adding nervous system support throughout the day, even when you're not stressed, building this in so it is a regular thing that your body is used to. It helps your body be able to switch back from the sympathetic, which is that fight or flight nervous system, into the parasympathetic, which is the rest, digest, and repair nervous system. And that is the nervous system that helps you sleep better. And of course, you know of other things like breath work, journaling, walking, spending time in nature, getting sunlight. These are all things that are very beneficial for our nervous system. And the final one, which has a lot to do with nervous system regulation, is overexercising or under-recovering. I know it is so tempting to double down on workouts and double down on the things that we can control when we start seeing our body composition changing in a way that is not the way we want to go. I totally understand that, and I want to empathize with that and respect that. But too much intensity raises cortisol, decreases recovery and repair, and totally backfires. Muscle is built in recovery. And when we are continuing to push our body harder and harder and harder and harder, we are not giving our body time to be able to rest and repair and be able to build that muscle, in addition to all of the issues that increased cortisol can present. Again, we are less stress resilient during this time. So doubling down on workouts is not the smartest strategy when it comes to being able to improve your body composition. What we want to do is be able to maximize benefit while decreasing that stress. So this is why I love strength training and lifting heavy. Of course, there is stress during that time, but generally speaking, it maximizes the benefit while reducing the overall stress on your body. Strength training 2 to 4 times a week, and then adding in daily walking. Walking is fantastic because there are those cardiovascular benefits, the movement benefits, but it does not spike cortisol like other bits of cardio do. So it is also restorative at the same time. So it hits 2 birds with 1 stone. And I don't know about you, but I love anything that builds efficiency into my life. It also then helps protect recovery and helps our body be able to rebuild. We can't be in this constant catabolic state, this breakdown state. We need to start supporting those activities that are more anabolic in nature, which is helping to rebuild our body and protect recovery. Things like rest days and sleeping are incredibly important in being able to support our body. Putting the pedal to the metal is not the strategy to use when you start to see your body composition changing. I know that seems super counterintuitive. And I talk about this a lot in another video that I will link within the description, where I talk about the types of workouts that are most supportive during this phase. The goal is to train smarter, not harder. It's about changing your strategy and being much more strategic about how you are moving your body so you get your biggest bang for your buck with the least stress and damage. If you've been eating cleaner or healthier and you haven't seen these results, do not blame yourself, or it doesn't mean that your body is broken. Perimenopause totally changes the game. Clean eating or healthier eating is really great from an anti-inflammatory standpoint, and there are benefits there. But if we continue to beat down the body over and over and over again and increase that stress, we are keeping our body in that storage mode. And and making it less likely for the body to be able to release fat. So when you fuel enough, you balance your calories, you support digestion, you're getting enough protein, you're managing stress, you're preserving and prioritizing sleep, and you are training wisely, your body can respond again. But it also takes time and patience. And that is another thing that I know that can be really frustrating, to trust the process, but we don't have a choice at this point. If you find that you are continuing to gain weight or it is stuck, what you're doing isn't working. And so it might be time to welcome a different strategy or a different way of thinking. Small shifts really do start to add up and make a big difference, so you don't have to feel stuck. I created a video on my own experience with what has helped me with body composition. I'm in early perimenopause, and I'll link to that right here. And of course, all the other videos that I mentioned in the topics in this video, I will also link in the description below. All right, you got this, and I'm here with you every step of the way. See you in the next one.